beloved, we are here at Sherman United Methodist Church for our Sermon Preachback. This Sunday, we observed Holy Humor Sunday. Liturgically, this is the Sunday where we declared that God played a joke on the devil by raising Jesus from the dead. Liturgically, this always happens this Sunday after Easter/Resurrection Sunday. So today, we are humbled to no end to be able to host Ron Baker Jr., artist par excellence, comedian extraordinaire here at Sherman. Brother Baker, thank you for coming to us on today. You have been doing amazing work across our country, and I just want to say thank you. When people call like myself, you respond and you come and you serve. Why are you committed to this ministry of comedy?
Where two or three are gathered together in my name and the check is cleared, there will I also be in the midst, dwelling amongst the brethren. That does get me there. But my call, I guess, is to be funny. I couldn't be a football player. I couldn't be a model. Tried my hand at some other things. I really wanted to be a baseball player. I wanted to be a baseball player. I am a drummer, and I didn't want to be a world-renowned drummer, but it was guys that were much younger and much better than me. And playing baseball, man, that ball comes really fast. Man, when I tell you it comes fast, as much as I loved it, I didn't really excel at anything other than telling jokes, but it was my dad that saw in me that, hey, you're funny, tell jokes, because my dad actually told jokes before he preached. He was a comedian and impressionist, and when the Lord called him to preach, he just stopped doing it, even though he still implements humor in everything that he does, especially his messages. And to this day, I'm not as funny as my dad. People often ask me, who's your comedy hero? It would be my dad. Completely hilarious. So that's what keeps me doing.
Wonderful. So it's good to see that when you invest in children, in particular parents, that your kids or your offspring will follow in your footsteps, and that they're always watching. And we just thank God for your father, because I've never heard him, but brother, you are my favorite comedian.
Well, thank you. Well, he can listen. My dad can preach, he can sing, and he has preached at all different denominations. He's done the invocations at my school, high school, college, junior high school. But you used the key word there when you said invest. My mother and father were teenage parents at 18 and 19 years old, and being how myself and my brother, he's a successful newscaster on CBS. He was a sportscaster on NBC. But I asked him, how did you get all of this out of us? He says, your mom and myself made the decision. Our number one investment was our children. And they invested in us. And I'm a product of what they put into it. So I do appreciate it. Shout out to my parents, Zorana Baker and Ronald Baker Sr., for making me what I am today, for beating me into submission.
To God be the glory. So, beloved, when we talk about homiletics, which is the art of preaching, a large part of that is hermeneutics. Hermes was a Greek messenger god who sent messages from the Greek gods to the humans. It means interpretation. And so oftentimes within the African-American context, those who are unashamed of being black and unapologetic of their Christian proclamation as black preachers, we get what we call an African-American hermeneutic. And so Alan Callahan crystallized this for me when I was studying at Harvard Divinity School, where he...
You went to Harvard?
Yes.
You speak so well.
Oh, right. And so this whole notion of what he called African appropriation of Scripture. And what we had today was a clear example of that, whereby Brother Baker took several stories of the Bible, interpreted them, had a jocularity effect, but more specific.
I ejaculated what?
Jocularity.
Okay, jocularity, okay.
Funny, comedic effect on how we responded to the story, but it was all a reflection in his own interpretation. So how do you get ready for the moment to share your reflections, which are very witty, very profound, to also bring about a teachable moment or the aha moment?
That's a really good question. Shout out to Pastor Frank Thomas.
All right.
Who taught me so much without actually sitting in his class.
All right.
He always said you got to put yourself in the text. He said you didn't preach if you didn't put yourself in the text? How do you identify with who you're speaking with? Well, how do you identify with the person in the text that you're preaching? And Eugene Gibson, Reverend Gino, who again, like yourself, brings me everywhere that he goes. Wherever he's pastored, Memphis, Ohio, he has brought me with him. So I appreciate your brother. I wish the powers that be and the gatekeepers would let me in, like these brothers have let me in and believed in me the same way. But I've listened to them. I've listened to my dad. I listened to Pastor Rice preach over the years. I've had great Sunday school teachers. I believe Sunday school is the backbone of the church. When your kids know Sunday school, when they know what they are professing, what they believe, I was taught these stories, but then these stories had to be applicable to my life. And when I actually met my first wife, I've been married 2 times to the same woman. And divorced 2 times from the same woman. That's a whole other story. But when I met her, something kind of happened that said, hey, change what you're doing, because I didn't always start out this way. I started with the Bernie Macs of the world, the Doses, the Adele Givens, the Cheryl Underwoods, who I've been on tour with for a few days of the world, who are all just awesome comedians. But I just kind of took the Richard Pryor-ness of comedy and the O.C. Nix of preaching. I know you don't know who that is. Mm-hmm. You know who O.C. Nix is?
I've heard of O.C. Nix.
A great way of being able to be humorous and to tell a story, being able to intertwine humor with the Bible. And then my father would say, we bakerize it. I bakerize it and make it my own and find the funny. Find the funny.
Well, I want to say that Richard Pryor was definitely had prophetic qualities. Love Richard Pryor, but more specifically, when I was taking homiletics with Anthony Campbell over at BU, he would always tell us, look for the punchline. Look for the punchline. And he tried to draw in particular, white students in this class to Red Fox.
Great comment.
Great comedian, but
Bill Cosby.
Yes.
We're not mentioning him now, but Bill Cosby is one of the most brilliant comedians. And I listened to that album, Bill Cosby himself, when I was young. Bill Cosby himself kind of transformed me. Red Fox, plain brown rapper. And Richard Pryor, Is It Something I Said? When I heard that, I was like, man, I got to do that. But when I heard Eddie Murphy in Delirious, I said, for sure, this is what I'm doing. Only to find out later that Eddie had a lot of Richard Pryor's style. It was a lot of Richard and Eddie. But when I saw Eddie, and then again, not just black comedians, there are several white comedians that I watched too. The Bob Holtz, the Rodney Dangerfields, that helped to shape and form, my comedy education, if you will.
Wonderful. Well, I just want to say thank you for.
I didn't go to the Harvard School of Comedy-letics.
But what we will say is this:
I did study in New York though with Chris Rock.
Oh, wonderful,
Chris Rock.
Wonderful. But to that end, Brother Baker has been with Black Methodists for Church Renewal. I want to also call out my good brothers who lead the convocation for the denomination. The IC3 conference is coming up. The Samuel DeWitt Proctor conference is coming up. I'm going to put out an exhortation. We need to experience and engage Ron Baker Jr. He's definitely talented, has something to say, but more specifically, it's how we communicate stories. In the business world, which I have my foot in as well as an attorney, now nobody's looking to read spreadsheets anymore. They want a compelling story. There is utility from having a brother like this come and train, engage to ensure that our craft is meaningful, that it is relevant, that we are able to effectively communicate. So I am going to get into my network, and as I've done in the past, be putting your name out there, not for the sake of gigs, but more specifically partnership and platforming because
You see how he's thinking? You see how he's thinking? You know, that's the kind of help that we need. You know,
and I'm black too.
Yeah,
I'm black.
And he's black. And he's black, y'all.
I'm a black
He's
person.
black, y'all. He's black and he black and black. He's black. He's been to Africa and everything. Because I had to call him. He was like, I'm in Uganda. I had to call you right back. Was it Uganda, West Africa?
South Africa.
South Africa. He was I'm in South Africa. Call you back. But it's more than listen. Rodney Johnson, another great comedian out of Atlanta. Jonathan Slocum, who's kind of like the granddad of this.
Yes.
And then Jeremiah Frazier, who's here in Chicago, who's great. Lunchabill. There's so many more who deliver great stuff. Travail Judon, who's been out on the road with Sherry Shepherd. These people are really, really good. In the white sector, we see it so large. And I would love to see it be just as large in the black sector. So I appreciate your help in bringing
Bishop Shireen, we got annual conference coming up. We need to hear from Ron Baker Jr. He even said today in his delivery, I want to have some of these white experiences. So let's get him down to the Temple, downtown Chicago. My good brother, Reverend Myron McCoy, who's also an African American, but serving very nobly in a what we call a mixed race context. But nonetheless, brother, we thank you. It doth not yet appear who or what you shall be, but as you continue to keep your hands in God's hand, we know that God is going to favor you, God is going to bless you, but you keep on blessing us.
My eyes have not seen.
Eyes have not seen.
Ears have not heard. It sounds like a preacher doing.
I guess I am one.
It is.
We thank you, my dear brother. If there's anything that we could do to be of support to you, just let us know.
Well, thank you very much.
All right, God bless you.